Back for some more Squarebody stuff on the old C10, and one step back to go hopefully 2 or 3 steps forwards. I'm fighting a real weird alignment thing where it's got a lot of toe curve to it, especially when the suspension's unloaded or loaded. When I hit a bump, it's like the tires go like this and they chirp. Granted, it's got some bad tires on it, but I did also have to modify the locationing for this to be able to have close to factory camber without adjusting the shims up here, which, as you can see, I've now gone into that rabbit hole of adjusting those to try and add a little bit more caster and kind of balance out the camber a little bit more, I guess I could say, just because it drives straight. Don't get me wrong, it drives pretty good. However, the bumps, and it's got a lot of drag feeling. I don't know if that's because like the brakes are kind of stiff. Ooh, it's actually a lot stiffer than I remember. Yeah, you can hear the dragging of the calipers, and then in the spindle change, obviously, like I was saying, the positive camber from having this in the factory spot means that this geometry is different, which that geometry might as well be different too. It only makes sense. So I'm going to try out kind of DIY aligning it. I get it up to about 60, 65, settle the suspension and whatever else, and it just so happens that I finally pulled the motor out of the parts truck and have that ready to go to the storage unit. So with that all being said, just gotta tighten these up, get the wheel back on, air up the one other junk tire on here, run to the storage unit, drop the motor and trans off, and we'll see how it does for that. And I'm hoping it's better, but alright, so I test drove it with having messed with the alignment shims in there, and it still did the exact same thing where I hit a bump, it's toe out really bad on each side. I think I've actually narrowed it down to, where are we? I'm using both my Camaro and the OBS Suburban here as reference, but the tie rod angle in relation to the control arm on this is super aggressive, whereas if we look at the Suburban, it's pretty well parallel with it. So I think that's the entire issue I'm having. And as you see, finally got a set of 4 matching wheels and tires on this truck. And I gotta say, I dig the stance of it. Just the front end needs to be wider to match up with the rear end now. That's the only complaint I have. And maybe, just maybe lower the front end just to make it level out when I put a trailer on it. But, oh, there's nothing. Now I gotta figure out how to fix, quote unquote, fix the tie rod angle. And plus I have to replace that idler arm too, because that's pretty blown out. But so far I got that. Now I'm working on the cab swap. And I got the dash pad all ripped out. Just started working on doing the gauges and under the hood area. Which all I'm gonna do is basically pull all of this forwards and just let it rest. Like brakes, steering shaft, wiring, anything that's in the way really, attached to the firewall, even that. And when I go to pull the cab off, I'll have the hood off and then this fender as well. And the idea is to pull it off and wheel it down and then load it onto trailer. And then same day, probably half hour after getting that one, this one's gonna get picked up like this, turned, brought down, and then put right on to the frame. And judging by eyeball measurement, the cab should fit through here pretty good. So hopefully that works out pretty good. And when the battery's connected, it's actually got the under dash and the cab roof ceiling dome lights working, but only on the passenger side. So I kind of hope to fix that with the driver's side with the new cab, just because the dome lights are super nice. But yeah, that's where we're at now. Okay, just got the cab swapped back over, or not swapped back over, swapped out, and literally just got it set down using the cherry picker with two of the straps that I use to hold vehicles down on the trailers in a X pattern. And it lifts all wonky because it's only one lifting point for the entirety of the heavy cab that it is. But I had my brother-in-law help me set it down, and the only casualty is the spark plug wires got a little nicked up, but the cap looks good. And now I just got to put the body bushings in. I got to find my core support bushings now, and get the cab bolted down, and then I'll just start being reassembly of the dash and everything else like that. And on this old cab, you can just see that just started flaking away as soon as I started lifting it that way. And when I was taking the truck apart, I found out that this whole part of the firewall was just so rotted. Like, this is a hole for a grommet, but it's tore all the way through here, and this is actually really terrible. So there's nothing lost in not rebuilding this cab, other than maybe the seat belts because that bolt's spinning. But like, other than that, it's almost ready for scrap. I gotta pull the brake pedal out. I might see about just cutting these bolts to get the seat belts out because they're pretty decent shape yet. And I also gotta grab some more wiring out of here. I don't know what it's all for, but I might as well have it just in case. So yeah, that's where we're at. Is new cab on, get inside here, and get the bushings in, and then just start reassembly. Front clip aligned the best that would allow it. It's door wise, it's okay. Cab wise, it's iffy. They're reproduction fenders, reproduction doors, so it's good enough. And I just gotta tighten down the core support and the front cab mounts because I left them all loose so I could wiggle. But the hood lines up okay. Passenger side corner in the back is fine, but this one I just haven't adjusted it to get it sit flush because I don't really mind too much. But otherwise, the doors shut great. Yeah, this gap here is a little bigger because of the dent, but other than that, I've got the entire wire harness back in, the gauge cluster in, just working on hooking the brake pedal up and gas pedal up now. And then I just got to patch this hole here. And I think I have to do something for the HVAC vents yet, but other than that, we're getting pretty good. The truck itself, or the cab and the bed, even though the frame's pretty rough, it's about an 1/8 inch off line or paint wise, but this corner of the bed isn't bolted down yet. And I think this line here I painted a little bit differently than this one, but if I do either trim or like paint a false trim on it, it'll all line up pretty good. And yeah, this door's a little bit harder to open, but it closes better than the doors when they were on the old cab, at least, so can't complain there. But yeah, so I just gotta hook up this, gotta paint the glove box, put that ashtray in, and then the bottom trim for the column there. And I still gotta zip tie some wires up just to take them away from the foot space. But yeah, getting close to firing it up and seeing if everything's hooked up, if anything needs adjusted, fixed, whatever that is. Yeah, that's where we're at. And all right, so I have now taken it for a drive, about a half-hour drive now, and everything is good. I'm actually sitting in the truck because it's extremely windy out, so I don't want the audio to be messed up. But other than this hole, multiple holes, however you want to say it, and the steering issue, which I still haven't fixed. The tool hasn't come yet. But other than those two things, the truck drives fun. You know, it drives nice, and it's a riot to drive. And today I just finished up putting in a incorrect dash pad, but it fits good enough, and it was decent until that crack, and then this big crack happened. It used to only be a tiny crack, and then that small one. But I switched over the Silverado trim because this dash came out of a K5 Blazer that was a custom deluxe, which didn't have either of these vents. And seeing this truck was a AC truck, I took all the like heater controls out of it, and this cab was an AC, originally an AC truck too. So I kept all the extra vents just because it's more heat output, because this truck will be driven year round. But then I had a weird thing where the clock was super loud, and when I turned the light switch, that light wouldn't come on. But I didn't find the right screws for this, and just kind of grabbed my self tappers, which it works. It holds it really stout. But I was tightening, which one was it? I think it was this one here. And I was just using the impact driver a little bit, and I just let it like click over once. All of a sudden the clock went super quiet, and then the light started working again. So now I just got to figure, I think the blower motor went out when I had the engine bay side of the box sitting in a pile of stuff, which granted it made some horrendous sounds, but if I would have given myself some more time to get this thing done, all the vents, like the one that goes to there, and all the, like, I think it's 2 or 3 other pieces, I should have taken and soaked them in some Dawn dish soap or some kind of cleaning detergent, because this truck had the old cab had a really bad set of like mouse houses in the cowl. So now and I gotta vacuum that out, and I gotta find a carpet, you know, stuff like that. But I can smell like a mouse pee, and the smell of mouse piss is really distinct, and it just slaps you in the face. So I just gotta figure out where that smell's coming from, try and clean it, and figure out a radio, fix steering, and the truck. Dare I say, other than, you know, obvious stuff that I've mentioned already, dare I say the truck might be driver status now. Granted, in a little while, once the weather stabilizes, because right now it's overcast, it's warm out, but it's windy, and it's rain, and it's spring. With that, I'm gonna paint the entire truck to match, replace cab corners, patch up the little rust hole there too, and even that opens nicely. I gotta figure out how to fix the slop in the latch, but it locks. So yeah, that's it for this video, and now I gotta figure out what to do for the next video. Might be some working on the Camaro, or maybe I can find a new project car to figure it out. So yeah, thanks for watching.